Shadow had never disobeyed a single command in 6 years, until he bolted into the blizzard without warning. Navy SEAL Marcus Cole ran after him blind through the whiteout, screaming his dog's name into the howling darkness. What he found buried in the snow stopped his heart cold. A crashed SUV, 2 frozen bodies in the front seats, and in the back, a 3-year-old girl barely breathing, kept alive only by a dying German shepherd wrapped around her tiny body. The dog had sacrificed everything to save a child he didn't know. Marcus didn't know it yet, but that same child carried evidence that would expose his wife's murder and drag him into a war against the men who wanted them both dead. Before we continue, tell us where you're watching from. And if this story moves you, hit subscribe and stay until the very end. What happens next will shatter everything you expect. Marcus Cole pressed his palms against the cold window and listened to the wind scream. 39 years old, 15 years as a Navy SEAL. 217 confirmed missions across 4 continents. He had crawled through burning oil fields in Iraq, survived ambushes in the Hindu Kush, pulled wounded brothers from helicopter wreckage while bullets tore the air around him. None of it prepared him for silence. The cabin sat 12 miles from the nearest paved road deep in Montana's Bitterroot Mountains. Federal assignment: monitor encrypted communications, track a criminal network called Frost, report findings to a task force he never met in person. Simple work for a complicated man. Shadow lay near the wood stove, his black and tan coat rising with each slow breath. 6 years old, retired military working dog. 3 tours in Afghanistan before a roadside bomb shattered his rear left leg. The surgeons saved the leg, but ended his service. Marcus requested him immediately. "You and me both, boy," Marcus had told him the day Shadow arrived at his doorstep. "Broken soldiers nobody knows what to do with." That was 2 years ago. 2 years since Catherine died. 2 years since Marcus stopped answering calls from friends, stopped attending reunions, stopped pretending he knew how to live without her. Cancer, the doctors said. Aggressive. Fast. Nothing they could do. Marcus accepted it because he had no choice. He buried his wife on a gray Tuesday morning, spoke 3 sentences at her funeral, and volunteered for the most remote assignment the Navy would give him. The Bitterroot cabin was his answer. Shadow lifted his head suddenly, ears rotating forward like satellite dishes. "Easy," Marcus said without turning from the window. "Just the storm." But Shadow didn't settle. The dog rose to his feet. Body rigid, nose pointed toward the door. A low whine escaped his throat. Not fear, something else. Something Marcus had only heard during combat. Urgency. "Shadow down." The dog ignored him. In 6 years, Shadow had never ignored a command. Not once. Not during firefights. Not during explosions. Not when a Taliban fighter had charged their position with a knife and Shadow had waited for Marcus's signal before launching. The dog moved toward the door, claws clicking against the wooden floor. "Shadow, down, now!" Nothing. Shadow pressed his nose against the door crack, inhaling deeply. His whine grew louder, more insistent. Marcus felt the hair rise on his neck. He'd learned to trust this dog with his life. Whatever Shadow sensed, it wasn't ordinary. He grabbed his thermal jacket from the hook. "What is it, boy? What do you smell?" Shadow pawed at the door, frantically scratching the wood. Marcus pulled the door open. Wind slammed into him like a frozen fist. Snow drove horizontally so thick he couldn't see 3 feet beyond the threshold. The thermometer on the porch frame read -18 degrees. Wind chill would make it -40. Unsurvivable exposure in 20 minutes. Shadow bolted into the white. Shadow, shadow. The dog vanished, instantly swallowed by the swirling chaos. Marcus's heart seized. His partner, his only friend, his last connection to anything resembling family. Gone. He didn't think, didn't calculate, didn't run tactical assessments the way 15 years of training demanded. He grabbed his rifle, pulled his hood tight, and ran into the blizzard after his dog. The cold hit him like a physical assault. Each breath burned his lungs. Ice crystals formed on his eyelashes within seconds, partially blinding him. He could see nothing. No trees, no ground, no sky. Only white. Endless, howling white. "Shadow!" His voice disappeared into the wind. He pushed forward, following boot-deep tracks that were filling with fresh snow even as he watched. 20 yards, 50 yards, 100 yards. The cabin behind him ceased to exist. The world became a frozen void. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back. This was suicide. No mission, no objective, no target worth dying in a whiteout blizzard. But Shadow was out here, and Shadow never ran without reason. Marcus forced his legs to keep moving. The tracks grew fainter. He was losing the trail. Then he heard it. A bark. Distant. Muffled. But unmistakable. He changed direction, orienting toward the sound. His thighs burned from pushing through knee-deep drifts. His exposed skin screamed with cold. Time became meaningless, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 15. Another bark. Closer. Marcus crested a small ridge and nearly fell into a ravine. He caught himself against a tree trunk, gasping. Below him, barely visible through the driving snow, Shadow stood beside a dark shape, half buried in a snowdrift. A vehicle. An SUV flipped onto its side front end, crumpled against a massive pine. "Shadow," the dog barked again. Urgent, desperate. He was digging at something near the vehicle's rear door. Marcus half ran, half slid down the slope. His boots hit the SUV's exposed undercarriage, and he used it to steady himself as he rounded to Shadow's position. The dog had cleared snow from a shattered window. Inside, Marcus could see shapes. Bodies. Oh God. He pulled out his tactical flashlight, shining it through the broken glass. Front seats, a man and woman. Both still. Both pale. Both clearly dead, frozen in the positions of impact. The woman's hand was extended backward, reaching toward the rear of the vehicle. Reaching for something. Marcus shifted the light. A car seat. Pink fabric. Tiny shoes. And a child. A little girl, maybe 3 years old, strapped into the seat. Her face was white as porcelain. Her lips held the faintest blue tinge. Her eyes were closed. But her chest was moving. Barely. Shallow breaths that barely fogged the frozen air. Alive. She was alive. Then Marcus saw the second dog. A German shepherd slightly smaller than Shadow, with a gray-white coat that had earned him his name somewhere. The dog lay curled around the car seat, his body pressed against the child, his own heat the only thing standing between her and death. The dog's eyes were open, locked onto Marcus, pleading. "I see you," Marcus breathed. "I see you both." He attacked the door. The frame was bent, jammed solid. He pulled his knife, wedged it into the gap, used his body weight as a lever. Metal groaned. The cold made everything brittle. The door popped open with a crack. Shadow pushed past him, nosing at the gray shepherd. The other dog let out a weak whine tail, twitching once. Marcus reached for the car seat straps. His fingers were clumsy, half-frozen despite his gloves. He fumbled with the buckle. Once. Twice. Come on. Come on. The buckle released. He lifted the girl from the seat. She weighed almost nothing, impossibly light, as if the cold had stolen her substance. Her head lolled against his chest. A small stuffed rabbit tumbled from her grip into the snow. Shadow immediately picked it up in his mouth. "Good boy," Marcus whispered. "Good boy." The gray shepherd tried to rise and collapsed. His right rear leg was torn open, a jagged gash from the crash that had been bleeding slowly for hours. The blood had frozen in dark crystals against his fur. Marcus looked at the child in his arms, then at the wounded dog, then at the raging blizzard that wanted to kill them all. He couldn't carry both, but he couldn't leave either. Shadow. Guard. Shadow positioned himself next to the gray shepherd, pressing his body against the wounded dog, the way the gray dog had pressed against the child, sharing warmth, sharing life. "I'm coming back," Marcus told them. 20 minutes. Don't you die on me." He turned and ran. The child against his chest felt like ice wrapped in cloth. He couldn't feel her breathing anymore. He couldn't feel his own feet. The world was white and screaming and endless. He ran anyway. The cabin materialized from the storm like a mirage becoming real. Marcus hit the door with his shoulder bursting through. He kicked it closed, carried the girl to the cot by the stove, and began working. Strip the wet clothes. Wrap in thermal blankets. Check airway. Check pulse. Pulse present. Weak. Thready. But present. Stay with me, sweetheart. Stay with me. He activated chemical heating packs, placed them under her arms against her neck near her core. His hands moved with precision, battlefield medicine adapted for a different kind of casualty. Her lips were blue. Her skin was gray. She showed no response to touch or voice, but she was breathing. That was enough. Marcus grabbed rope, a tarp, and emergency supplies. He stuffed them into a pack and headed back into the storm. The 20 minutes it took to reach the dogs felt like 20 hours. Shadow hadn't moved. He lay pressed against the gray shepherd, both dogs shivering but conscious. When Shadow saw Marcus, his tail wagged weakly. "Good boys. Both of you. Good boys." Marcus fashioned a makeshift sled from the tarp, wrapping the gray shepherd in an emergency blanket and securing him to the frame. The dog whined once as Marcus lifted him, but didn't snap or struggle. Trust. Complete, absolute trust from an animal who'd never met him. "I've got you," Marcus said. "I've got you." Shadow helped pull, gripping a rope in his jaws, hauling alongside Marcus as they fought through the drifts. The gray shepherd's eyes never left Marcus's face. Those brown eyes, dulled by pain and cold, held something Marcus recognized: gratitude, and fear, and hope. The cabin reappeared through the white curtain. Marcus dragged the sled inside, positioned the gray shepherd near the stove, and immediately began working on the leg wound. He cleaned it, applied pressure, wrapped it with sterile bandages from his trauma kit. "You're going to be okay," he told the dog. "You hear me? You're going to be okay." The gray shepherd's tail moved once, a tiny wag, an answer. Marcus turned to check the girl. Her color had improved slightly. The gray was fading. Her breathing had strengthened. She was still unconscious, but she was fighting. Shadow positioned himself between the two patients, his head swiveling from child to dog, dog to child. Guardian. Protector. The role he was born for. Marcus sat heavily on the floor, his back against the wall. His body was screaming frozen extremities, exhausted muscles, lungs raw from the cold air. He'd pushed himself harder than any mission had ever demanded, and he had no idea what any of this meant. A child, a dead couple, a wounded shepherd who'd sacrificed himself to keep the girl alive through a crash and a blizzard. Why were they here? Where were they going? Who wanted a 3-year-old dead because that's what this was? Marcus had seen enough accidents to know. The SUV hadn't simply lost control. The front tire, what remained of it, showed damage inconsistent with a blowout. Someone had shot it out, forced the vehicle off the road. This wasn't an accident. It was murder. And whoever did it might still be looking for survivors. Marcus checked his rifle, checked his sidearm, moved to the window, and scanned the whiteness beyond. Nothing visible. The blizzard was too thick, which meant he was hidden. For now. The little girl stirred. Marcus was at her side in an instant. Her eyelashes fluttered. Her small fingers twitched against the thermal blanket. "Hey," Marcus said softly. "Hey, sweetheart. Can you hear me?" Her eyes opened. Hazel. Huge, filled with confusion and terror. "You're safe," Marcus said quickly. "You're safe. No one's going to hurt you." She stared at him. Her lower lip trembled. "My name's Marcus. I'm a friend. You're in my cabin. You're warm. You're okay." The girl's gaze shifted. Found shadow. Found the gray shepherd lying nearby. "Ghost," she whispered. Her voice was tiny, cracked, barely audible. "Ghost, okay." The gray dog lifted his head at his name. His tail wagged weakly. "Ghost is going to be fine," Marcus said. "He saved your life, you know. He kept you warm all night." The girl's eyes filled with tears. Mommy said Ghost would protect me. Mommy said." Her face crumpled. The tears came, deep, racking sobs that shook her small body. Marcus did the only thing he could. He gathered her into his arms, held her against his chest, and let her cry. "I know," he murmured. "I know, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." He didn't know her name, didn't know her story, didn't know what horrors she'd witnessed in the vehicle before the cold claimed consciousness. But he knew loss. He knew grief. He knew the specific agony of watching someone you love die and being powerless to stop it. "Mommy wouldn't wake up," the girl sobbed. "I called and called. Daddy wouldn't wake up. Ghost barked and barked. Nobody came." "You were very brave," Marcus said. "So brave. And Ghost was brave too." "Bad men," the girl whispered suddenly. Her body went rigid in his arms. "Bad men stopped the car. Daddy said run. Mommy grabbed me. Then the loud noise. Then, she dissolved into tears again. "Bad men. Daddy said run. The loud noise. Gunfire." Marcus was certain now. Someone had ambushed them, killed the parents, left the child to die in the cold. "What's your name, sweetheart?" The girl sniffled. "Lily. Lily. That's a beautiful name. Lily, I need you to listen to me. You're safe here. Shadow and Ghost and I are going to protect you. But I need you to be brave a little longer. Can you do that for me?" Lily looked at him with those huge hazel eyes. So young, so fragile, already carrying weight no child should bear. "I can be brave," she whispered. "Ghost taught me how." Marcus felt something crack inside his chest. Something frozen. Something that had been frozen since Catherine died. Good girl, he managed. Good girl. He settled her back onto the cot, tucked the blankets around her, placed the stuffed rabbit retrieved by Shadow into her arms. What's your rabbit's name? Mr. Buttons. Lily clutched him tighter. Mommy gave him to me. Said he'd keep the bad dreams away. Then you hold on to Mr. Buttons. He'll keep you company while I work. Marcus moved to the body's belongings he'd stripped from Lily. The child's jacket, her tiny snow boots, a small backpack with juice boxes and crackers, and something else, sewn into the lining of the jacket, hidden so carefully that only someone searching would find it. A flash drive. Marcus held it up to the light. Standard USB, no markings, no labels. Why would someone hide a flash drive in a 3-year-old's jacket? He crossed to his laptop, plugged in the drive, and began to work. The encryption was federal grade. Took him 40 minutes to crack it. His fingers were still stiff from the cold, and Lily had fallen back into fitful sleep, whimpering occasionally as nightmares chased her. The files opened. Documents, photographs, audio recordings, emails. Hundreds of files meticulously organized. Marcus started reading. The first document was a federal investigation summary. The header made him freeze. Refrost Network, active investigation, classification, top secret, lead agent, deputy. U.S. Marshal Thomas Reed. Thomas Reed. The dead man in the driver's seat. Marcus kept reading. Frost Network was larger than the task force had suspected. Much larger. They weren't just running elder fraud, they were operating a trafficking pipeline. Children and elderly moved through a network of corrupt foster care agencies and nursing homes. The operation had infiltrated state child protective services in Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming. Judges were paid off. Social workers were complicit. Children were placed with approved families who were actually fronts. Kids vanished into the system, never to be seen again. Elderly victims were placed in fraudulent care facilities where their identities were stolen, their assets drained, their lives ended when they became inconvenient. Frost Network was run by someone at the highest levels of local law enforcement. Someone with the power to control investigations, silence witnesses, and make problems disappear. Marcus clicked on a photograph. Sheriff Dale Brennan, 53 years old, 28 years in law enforcement, controlled 3 counties in western Montana, smiled for cameras, shook hands with senators, and according to these files, personally ordered the execution of at least 6 witnesses. The next file hit Marcus like a bullet to the chest. An audio recording, dated 18 months ago. He pressed play. A woman's voice filled the cabin. Familiar. So achingly familiar that Marcus's hands began to shake. This is Catherine Cole, investigative journalist, recording for evidence. I have confirmed that Frost Network is operating within Montana's foster care system. Sheriff Dale Brennan is directly involved. I have documents proving... The recording cut off. Marcus couldn't breathe. Catherine, his wife, his dead wife. She had been investigating Frost Network 18 months ago, 6 months before she was diagnosed with cancer. His hands moved automatically, clicking on another file. An email exchange. Dates jumping forward. A name appeared, Dr. Harold Sims, medical examiner, Lincoln County. The email was brief. It's done. Cause of death confirmed as metastatic cancer. No autopsy required per family request. The problem is solved. Marcus read it again, and again, and again. No autopsy. Per family request. He had made that request. The funeral director had suggested it. Given the obvious cause of death, no need to put her through that. Marcus had agreed. He wanted Catherine to rest. He didn't want her body violated. He had been manipulated. Catherine didn't die of cancer. Catherine was murdered. And Marcus had helped them cover it up. The cabin walls seemed to close in. His vision tunneled, his heart hammered against his ribs. "No," he whispered. "No, no, no." Shadow pressed against his leg, whining softly. The dog could feel his distress. Marcus forced himself to breathe. In, out, in, out. Mission. Focus on the mission. Catherine had been investigating Frost Network. She'd gotten too close. They'd killed her, made it look natural, and Marcus, consumed by grief, had never questioned it. Now he had the evidence. Her evidence. Smuggled out by a U.S. Marshal who died trying to protect it. And a 3-year-old girl who'd witnessed something she shouldn't have. Marcus understood now. Lily wasn't just a witness. According to the files, she'd been rescued from a Frost Network placement. Thomas Reed and his wife Sarah, a social worker who'd turned whistleblower, had pulled her from a trafficking foster home 3 days ago. They were transporting her to a federal safe house when Frost Network caught up with them. Lily was evidence, living, breathing evidence that could bring down the entire operation. And they would be coming for her. Marcus stood crossed to the window and stared into the dying storm. The blizzard was weakening, visibility improving. By morning, travel would be possible, which meant by morning they would be hunted. He had 8 hours, maybe less. 8 hours to fortify. 8 hours to prepare. 8 hours before the men who killed his wife came to finish what they'd started. Marcus looked at Lily, still clutching Mr. Buttons. At Ghost, watching over her with devoted eyes. At Shadow, pressed against his leg, ready for whatever came next. He thought about Catherine. About the justice she'd died seeking. About the child she'd never known she was trying to save. "All right," Marcus said quietly. "Let's go to war." Marcus worked through the darkness with cold precision. He dragged the heavy oak table against the front door, stacked firewood behind it as a secondary barrier, checked every window latch, every wall seam, every possible entry point. Shadow followed his movements, alert and watchful. The dog understood preparation. He'd seen it before 100 firefights. Ghost lifted his head from his position near Lily, tracking Marcus with tired but intelligent eyes. Even Wounded the shepherd refused to fully rest. His gaze kept returning to the sleeping child, checking, always checking. "You're a good soldier," Marcus told him quietly. "Best I've ever seen." Ghost's tail thumped once against the floor. Lily stirred in her sleep, whimpering. Her small fingers clutched Mr. Buttons so tightly the stitching strained. Marcus paused his work, crossed to her, knelt beside the cot. "Shh," he murmured, adjusting her blanket. "You're safe. I'm here." The whimpering stopped. Her breathing steadied. Marcus stayed there longer than he should have, watching her sleep. 3 years old, orphaned, hunted, carrying evidence that could destroy a criminal empire. Catherine would have loved her. The thought came unbidden, and with it a pain so sharp Marcus had to close his eyes. Catherine, his wife, murdered by the same people who wanted this child dead. He forced himself to stand. Grief was a luxury. He'd mourn later. Right now, survival was the only priority. The storm outside was dying. Through the frosted windows, Marcus could see the snow falling lighter now, the wind losing its fury. By dawn, maybe 5 hours away, the roads would be passable. 5 hours to prepare for whatever came next. He returned to his laptop, scrolling through the flash drive files. There was more. So much more. Financial records showed Frost Network moving millions through shell companies. Real estate transactions revealed nursing homes purchased across 3 states, all showing unusually high mortality rates within months of acquisition. Death factories, that's what they were. Places where elderly people were sent to die while their identities and assets were harvested. Marcus's jaw tightened. Then he found the witness list. 12 names. People who had discovered pieces of the truth and been scheduled for elimination. Catherine Cole was number 7. Numbers 1 through 6 had lines through their names. Dead. Numbers 8 through 11 also had lines. Dead. Number 12 was still unmarked Margaret Hayes, 75, widow, Missoula. Net worth $2.3 million following husband's death. She was next. Marcus checked the date on the file. 3 days old. If Frost Network operated on schedule, Margaret Hayes might already be dead, or she might still have time. He filed the information away, one crisis at a time. The encrypted radio on his desk crackled. Marcus froze. He'd been monitoring Frost Network communications for months as part of his federal assignment. Standard surveillance. Listen and report. Never engage. But now he recognized the voice coming through the static. Confirm the marshal's vehicle has been located. No survivors visible. The package is unaccounted for. Package. They meant Lily. A second voice responded, deeper, authoritative. Expand the search grid. The child couldn't have gotten far in that storm. Check every structure within 5 miles. Copy that. What about the federal asset in Sector 7? Silence. Then, what federal asset? Navy monitoring station. Single operator. Been there 3 months. Marcus stopped breathing. Pull his file. If he's seen anything, he's a liability. Handle it with the primary objective. Understood. Team is mobilizing now. ETA to search grid 6 hours. The radio went silent. 6 hours. They were coming in 6 hours. And they knew about him. Marcus grabbed his satellite phone, punching in Commander Ortega's emergency line. Static. He tried again. More static. The blizzard. The atmospheric interference was blocking his signal. He had a backup and emergency burst transmitter that could punch through any weather, but it was a one-shot device. Once he triggered it, the signal would broadcast his coordinates to anyone listening, including Frost Network. He couldn't use it yet, not until the timing was right. Marcus looked at Lily, still sleeping, at Ghost, still guarding, at Shadow, now standing rigid by the window, ears forward. 6 hours, Marcus said quietly. We hold for 6 hours. Shadow's tail didn't wag. The dog knew what was coming. Lily woke crying just before dawn. Mommy! Mommy! Marcus was at her side instantly. Lily! Lily, look at me! Her eyes were wild, unfocused, trapped in nightmare. The loud noise, Mommy fell down. There was red on her face. Mommy, Lily. Marcus gripped her shoulders gently but firmly. You're safe. You're in the cabin. Remember Marcus's cabin. Her breathing came in ragged gasps. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Where's Mommy? I want Mommy. Marcus felt his heart crack. What could he say? How do you tell a 3-year-old that her parents are frozen in a wrecked car half a mile away? Your mommy loved you very much, he said carefully. She loved you so much that she made sure Ghost would protect you. And Ghost did. He kept you warm all night. Lily's gaze shifted to the wounded shepherd. Ghost lifted his head tail, wagging weakly. Ghost is hurt, Lily whispered. Ghost is brave, just like you. And he's going to be okay. Promise. Marcus hesitated. He never made promises he couldn't keep. But those hazel eyes swimming with tears demanded something. I promise I'll do everything I can to help him. Lily considered this. Then slowly she nodded. Are you hungry? Marcus asked. A small nod. He found the crackers from her backpack, the juice boxes. Lily ate mechanically, her eyes never leaving Ghost. Mommy said Ghost was special, she said between bites. Said he was a police dog. Said he would always find me if I got lost. Your mommy was right. Ghost is very special. Are you special too? Marcus almost smiled. I'm a sailor. I work for the Navy. Like with boats. Sometimes. Mostly I help keep people safe. Lily studied him with an intensity that seemed too old for her years. Are you going to keep me safe? Yes, Marcus said. No hesitation, no qualification. Yes, I am. What about the bad men? His blood chilled. What bad men, Lily? The ones who stopped our car. Daddy called them bad men. He told Mommy to take me and run, but then her voice trailed off. Her face crumpled. Did you see the bad men? What did they look like? Lily shook her head. It was dark. Daddy told me to close my eyes. He said, don't look, baby, don't look. Good. That was good advice. But I heard them. They had loud voices. One man said... She scrunched her face, trying to remember. He said, make sure there's no witnesses. What's a witness? Marcus's hands clenched. Someone who sees something important. Am I a witness? No. Marcus lied. You're just a little girl who needs to eat her crackers. Lily took another bite, but her eyes remained troubled. Shadow suddenly rose to his feet, growling low. Marcus spun toward the window. The storm had stopped completely. Pale morning light revealed a white world, pristine and deadly. And movement, far down the slope, barely visible. 3 figures on snowmobiles moving slowly through the trees. Lily, Marcus said calmly. I need you to do exactly what I say. Her eyes went wide. Are they the bad men? I don't know yet, but we're going to play a hiding game, okay, you and Ghost and Mr. Buttons. He moved quickly, lifting the rug near the wood stove. Beneath it was a trap door he'd installed his first week here, standard operational security. The cellar below was small, cramped, but insulated and invisible. You're going to go down here with Ghost. You're going to be very, very quiet. Can you do that? Lily nodded, her lower lip trembling. Marcus lifted Ghost as gently as possible. The dog whined but didn't struggle. He lowered him into the cellar, then helped Lily down the ladder. Hold on to Ghost, Marcus instructed. If you hear loud noises, cover your ears. Don't come out until I open the door, no matter what you hear. What if you don't come back? The question hit like a punch. I'm coming back, Marcus said firmly. I promise. He lowered the trapdoor, replaced the rug, checked his rifle. Shadow was already at the window, hackles raised. The snowmobiles had stopped. The 3 figures dismounted, spreading out in a search pattern. They wore civilian winter gear, but their movements were tactical. Trained. Marcus adjusted his scope. The lead figure raised binoculars, scanning the slope. When he lowered them, Marcus could see his face clearly. Sheriff Dale Brennan. The man who ordered his wife's murder was standing 400 yards away. Marcus's finger found the trigger. 1 shot. He could end it right now. Put a bullet through the skull of the man who destroyed his life. His training screamed at him to wait. Gather intelligence. Confirm targets. 3 men might mean more men nearby. But his heart, his broken, raging heart, demanded blood. The crosshairs settled on Brennan's forehead. 1 shot. Catherine's face flashed through his mind, her smile on their wedding day, her laugh echoing through their home, her hand growing cold in his as the monitors flatlined. Poisoned. She was poisoned, and they called it cancer. His finger tightened. Shadow let out a sharp bark. Marcus looked away from the scope. More movement, coming from the east. 4 more figures on foot, armed with rifles. 7 men. Not 3. This was an advance team. If he killed Brennan now, the others would call for backup. The full assault force, however many that was, would descend before he could get Lily to safety. He needed them to leave, needed them to think no one was here. Marcus lowered his rifle. "Not yet," he whispered to Shadow. "Not yet." He watched as the search team spread across the slope, checking snowdrifts following the fading tracks from last night. His tracks, leading directly from the crashed SUV to the cabin. The snow had filled them partially, but not completely. A man near the crash site shouted something. Others converged. They'd found the vehicle. Brennan approached, examining the scene. Even from this distance, Marcus could see his body language shift tension, replacing confidence. They found the bodies, but not the child. Brennan pulled a radio from his belt, spoke into it for several minutes. The other men spread out flashlights, probing the vehicle interior. Then Brennan pointed, directly at the cabin. Marcus's grip tightened on his rifle. The search team began moving uphill, slow, cautious, weapons ready. They were coming. Marcus ran through calculations. 7 men with rifles versus 1 SEAL with limited ammunition. Defensible position, but not indefinitely. Unknown hostiles potentially en route. The math was bad. But he'd faced worse odds in Fallujah, in Kandahar, in places without names and missions without records. The difference was those times he'd been alone. Now he had a 3-year-old girl counting on him. "Shadow," Marcus commanded. "Guard the cellar. Don't let anyone near that door." The German Shepherd moved into position, low and ready. Marcus checked his ammunition. 42 rounds for the rifle. 15 for the sidearm. 2 flashbang grenades. 1 fragmentation grenade against 7 men. Maybe more coming. He thought about Catherine again. About the files on that flash drive. About the 12 names on the witness list. About the child hidden beneath his feet, trusting him to keep his promise. "All right," he murmured, settling into position. "Come and get me." The first man reached the cabin perimeter. Marcus watched through a gap in the shutters. Young, maybe late 20s, nervous. His rifle swept back and forth, too quickly amateur hour. The kind of hired muscle criminal organizations picked up cheap. A voice crackled from the man's radio. "Perimeter secure. No signs of movement. Proceed to structure. Confirm empty." The young man approached the front door, reached for the handle. Marcus considered his options. If he let them search, they'd find the cellar. Find Lily. Game over. If he engaged, he'd announce his presence. Bring the full weight of Frost Network down on this location. Neither option worked. He needed a third option. The young man pushed the door. It held the barricade, blocked it. "Door's jammed," he radioed. "Might be snowed in. Want me to breach?" A pause. Then Brennan's voice, "Hold position. I'm coming up." Marcus had 2 minutes, maybe less. He moved to the back window, the one facing away from the search team. Opened it silently. Slipped outside into the snow. The cold hit him immediately, but he ignored it. He circled wide, using the cabin as cover, moving through the trees, with the silence 15 years of special operations had trained into his bones. Shadow remained inside, guarding the cellar. Protecting Lily. Marcus approached the search team from their blind side. Brennan was halfway up the slope, flanked by 2 men. The other 4 had spread out, creating a loose perimeter. Marcus identified the weakest point, a gap between 2 guards near the eastern tree line. He moved toward it. 30 yards, 20 yards, 15. One of the guards turned. Marcus froze. The man stared directly at the trees where Marcus crouched. His rifle came up slowly. "See something?" his partner called. A pause. "Thought I saw movement. Probably a deer." "Focus. Brennan wants this done quick." The guard turned away. Marcus exhaled. He continued moving until he reached a position behind the rearmost guard, a heavy-set man in his 40s with a thick beard. One strike to the throat. The man collapsed silently into the snow. Marcus caught him, lowered him gently, checked his pulse. Unconscious, not dead. He didn't want bodies yet. Bodies meant investigations. Bodies meant questions. He stripped the man's radio, clipped it to his belt. Now he could hear their communications. "Unit 7 report." Marcus grabbed the radio, pressed transmit, and coughed once. Static-laden. Ambiguous. "Copy. Maintain position." He melted back into the trees. Brennan reached the cabin, tried the door, kicked it. "Someone's barricaded this from inside." "Could be the storm." "Storm doesn't stack firewood against a door." Brennan's voice hardened. "Someone's here, or was here recently." He turned, scanning the forest. "Spread out, check every possible exit point. I want this structure surrounded." The remaining guards scrambled to comply. Marcus watched from his new position 50 yards out. He could pick them off one by one, but the moment he fired, everything changed. He needed time. He needed the burst transmitter. He needed Commander Ortega's team. The radio crackled again. "Sir, the tracks from the crash site lead directly here. Looks like someone dragged something heavy. Could be the kid." Brennan went still. "The child survived." "Unknown. But someone rescued something from that wreck." Silence. "Then find her. Search every inch. If she's alive, she's a liability." Marcus's blood ran cold. A liability. That's what they called a 3-year-old girl. He made his decision. Moving quickly now, he circled back toward the cabin's rear entrance. The window he'd left from was still open. He climbed inside, found Shadow still positioned at the cellar door. "Good boy," he whispered. He grabbed the burst transmitter from his equipment locker, activated it, set the delay for 30 minutes. In 30 minutes, his location would broadcast to every military frequency within 500 miles. Commander Ortega would receive it. So would anyone else listening. It was a gamble, but it was the only play he had. Marcus checked the cellar. Lily looked up at him, eyes wide, Ghost pressed against her side. "Are the bad men here?" she whispered. "Yes, but they're not going to find you." "You're going back out there." "I have to. But Shadow is staying with you. And Ghost. They'll protect you." Lily reached up and grabbed his hand. Her tiny fingers barely wrapped around his palm. "Don't die," she said. "Okay, don't die." Marcus felt something break inside him, something he hadn't felt since Catherine. "I won't," he said. "I promise." He lowered the trap door. Outside, Brennan was ordering his men to breach the front door. Marcus moved to the window, raised his rifle. 28 minutes until the burst transmitted. 28 minutes until help maybe arrived. 28 minutes to hold off 7 armed men. The first strike against the door echoed through the cabin. Marcus took a breath, let it out, and made his first shot count. The bullet caught the lead breacher in the shoulder. The man spun backwards, rifle clattering across the porch, screaming, as blood sprayed across the fresh snow. His partner dove sideways, scrambling for cover behind the woodpile. "Contact! We've got a shooter inside!" Marcus was already moving. He fired twice more through the front window, forcing the men near the tree line to scatter. One stumbled. Another dropped flat. Brennan's voice roared across the clearing. "Suppressive fire! Pin him down!" The cabin exploded with incoming rounds. Marcus hit the floor as bullets punched through the walls, showering splinters and insulation. The wood stove took 3 hits, metal ringing like church bells. A round passed inches above his head, burying itself in the far wall. He crawled toward the side window. Glass shattered above him as more shots poured in. "Shadow, stay down!" The German Shepherd was flat against the floor, pressed against the cellar trap door. Protecting Lily even now. Marcus reached the window, rose just enough to aim, and squeezed off 2 rounds at a muzzle flash near the eastern pines. A grunt. A body falling. 3 down. 4 still active. Maybe more coming. He checked his ammunition. 34 rounds remaining. The radio he'd stolen crackled. "This is Unit 12. We heard shots. What's your status?" "Unit 12. More men." How many more? Brennan's voice responded. "Single shooter in the cabin. Skilled. Military trained. Requesting immediate backup. ETA 15 minutes. Hold position." 15 minutes. More enemies in 15 minutes. Marcus had maybe 22 minutes until his burst transmission went out. If reinforcements arrived before his backup, this was over. He needed to end this fast. "Sheriff Brennan," Marcus shouted through the shattered window. "I know who you are. I know what you've done." Silence. The gunfire paused. Then Brennan's voice calm and controlled. "Who am I talking to?" "Petty Officer First Class Marcus Cole, United States Navy. You're surrounded by federal jurisdiction and backup is already en route." A pause. Marcus Cole. Why does that name sound familiar? Maybe because you murdered my wife. The silence stretched longer this time. "Catherine Cole," Brennan said slowly. "The journalist. That was your wife. You made it look like cancer, but I found the files. All of them." A bark of laughter from outside. "Then you understand why we can't let you leave, you or the girl. The girl is 3 years old. The girl is evidence. Evidence gets eliminated. That's how this works, soldier. You should understand that better than anyone." Marcus felt rage building in his chest. Hot. Dangerous. The kind of rage that got operators killed. He forced it down, controlled his breathing. "You're not walking away from this, Brennan. Every file Catherine gathered is already uploaded to federal servers. Every name, every transaction, every body you buried." Bluff. The files were on a flash drive in his pocket, not uploaded anywhere. But Brennan didn't know that. Another pause. "You're lying." "Am I? Check your offshore accounts. The ones in the Caymans. The ones Thomas Reed documented before you killed him." Movement outside. Whispered conversations. Brennan was rattled. "Good. Here's what's going to happen," Marcus continued. "You're going to take your men and leave. You're going to run as far and as fast as you can, because in about 20 minutes, every SEAL team within 500 miles is going to converge on this location, and they're not going to ask questions." "You're bluffing. Try me." Silence. Then Brennan's voice harder now. "Kill him. Kill him and find the girl. We're burning this cabin to the ground." The gunfire resumed with renewed fury. Marcus ducked as the window frame above him disintegrated. He rolled behind the overturned table, using it as cover. They were changing tactics. Instead of trying to breach, they were trying to destroy. He heard something roll across the porch. "Grenade! Down!" The explosion ripped through the front wall, sending debris flying. Marcus's ears rang. Blood trickled from a cut above his eye. Another grenade. This one hit the side wall. Boom! The cabin shook. A support beam cracked the roof, groaning. They were demolishing the structure around him. Marcus grabbed Shadow's harness and hauled him toward the cellar trap door. He threw it open. "Go get in!" Shadow dropped into the cellar without hesitation. Marcus followed, pulling the trapdoor shut behind him as a third explosion tore through what remained of the cabin above. Lily screamed. "It's me, it's Marcus." He found her in the darkness, pressed against Ghost, both of them trembling. He pulled them both against him, shielding them with his body as debris rained onto the trapdoor above. "Are they going to kill us?" Lily whimpered. "No, I won't let them. But there's so many. Doesn't matter. I've fought worse." He hadn't. Not like this. Not alone. But she didn't need to know that. The explosions stopped. Through the cellar ceiling, Marcus could hear boots on what remained of the floor above. They were entering the structure. "Check everywhere. Find the child." Marcus pressed his finger to his lips. Lily nodded, clamping both hands over her mouth. Footsteps directly overhead. Slow. Searching. "Nothing here but wreckage." "Keep looking. She was in that car. She survived the crash. She's here somewhere." A boot kicked at debris. Closer. Closer. Shadow's growl built in his throat. Marcus clamped his hand around the dog's muzzle, silencing him. One sound. One whimper. One creak of the trapdoor. That's all it would take. The footsteps paused directly above them. "What's under this rug?" Marcus drew his sidearm. 15 rounds. If that trapdoor opened, he would empty everyone. "Just flooring. Old cabin like this probably has root cellar access." "Check it." The rug was pulled aside. Marcus aimed at where the trap door would open. Lily pressed her face into Ghost's fur. The wounded shepherd was completely still, understanding the danger with animal instinct. A hand touched the trapdoor ring. Marcus's finger tightened on the trigger. "Brennan, we've got a problem." The hand withdrew. Footsteps retreated. "What is it?" "Radio intercept, military frequency. Someone triggered an emergency beacon from this location." Silence. Then Brennan's voice, dangerously quiet. "When transmitter went active 12 minutes ago. Continuous burst signal. If there's anyone monitoring, there always is." Brennan's tone shifted to cold urgency. "We're leaving. Now." "What about the girl?" "She's trapped in a collapsed cabin in the middle of nowhere. Temperature's dropping. She'll be dead by nightfall. Let the cold finish what we started." Footsteps retreating. Engines starting. The whine of snowmobiles fading into distance. Marcus waited. 5 minutes. 10. Silence. He pushed up the trap door slowly. What remained of the cabin was devastated walls, collapsed roof, partially caved, furniture reduced to splinters. But the cellar had held. "Stay here," he told Lily. "Just a little longer." He climbed out, rifle ready, and swept the perimeter. Empty. Tracks in the snow leading away, but no movement. They were gone. For now. Marcus returned to the cellar. "It's clear. We need to move." He lifted Ghost first, the shepherd, whining softly as his wounded leg brushed the ladder. Then Lily, who clung to his neck with desperate strength. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere safer. Help is coming, but they won't find us if we stay here." He gathered supplies from the wreckage, emergency rations, the first aid kit, his remaining ammunition. The radio still worked. The burst transmitter was still broadcasting. Maybe 16 minutes until Ortega received the signal. Maybe another hour for the team to deploy. An hour and a half. Minimum. The cold was already seeping through the destroyed walls. Brennan was right about one thing: they couldn't survive here until nightfall. Marcus wrapped Lily in every blanket he could salvage, put her on his back in an improvised carrier. Ghost couldn't walk far, so Shadow would help pull the tarp sled again. "Ready?" he asked Lily. "No," she admitted. "I'm scared." "Being scared is okay. Being brave means doing what you have to even when you're scared." "Is that what you do? Every single day?" They moved out into the frozen wilderness. Marcus pushed hard, following a ridgeline he'd scouted during his months at the cabin. There was a ranger station 4 miles north, abandoned for winter, but structurally sound. If they could reach it, they'd have shelter defensible position and a clear line of sight for incoming rescue aircraft. 4 miles, in waist-deep snow, with a wounded dog and a 3-year-old. Impossible. But impossible was what SEALs did for a living. Lily talked as they walked. Maybe from fear. Maybe from the need to fill the silence. Maybe just because she was 3 and 3-year-olds talked. Mommy used to sing to me when I was scared. She sang about sunshine. Daddy said she had the prettiest voice. Marcus adjusted her weight on his back. She sounds wonderful. She was. She made the best cookies. Chocolate chip. Ghost liked them too, but Mommy said dogs shouldn't eat chocolate, so she made special cookies just for Ghost without chocolate. That was very thoughtful. Are you married? The question hit unexpectedly. I was. My wife. She passed away. Like Mommy and Daddy. Yes, like Mommy and Daddy. Lily was quiet for a moment. Then, do you think they're in heaven together? My Mommy and Daddy and your wife. Marcus's throat tightened. I think if heaven exists, they're watching over us right now. Mommy said heaven is where good people go. Are you a good person, Marcus? I try to be. Then you'll go to heaven too, and I'll tell my mommy you saved me. He couldn't respond. Couldn't find words past the grief and gratitude tangling in his chest. They walked in silence for a while. Shadow led the way, nose testing, the air ears rotating constantly. Ghost rode the sled alert despite his injury, his eyes never leaving Lily. 2 hours into the march, Marcus heard it. Engines. Distant, but approaching. Off the trail, he commanded. He pulled the sled behind a rocky outcropping, pressed Lily and himself into a snow-covered depression. Shadow crowded in beside them, body blocking the wind. The engines grew louder. Not snowmobiles this time, something heavier. Through a gap in the rocks, Marcus saw them. 3 trucks with snow chains grinding up a Forest Service road he didn't know existed. In the truck beds, men with rifles. Lots of men. He counted 15, 20. More still coming. This wasn't a search party anymore. This was an army. Brennan wasn't giving up. He was escalating. The trucks passed within 200 yards, heading toward the destroyed cabin. When they found it empty, they would spread out. Search patterns would cover every square mile of this wilderness. They would find the ranger station. Marcus adjusted his calculations. 4 miles was no longer far enough. Change of plans, he murmured. What's wrong? More bad men. Lily's grip on his jacket tightened. Lots more. Yes, but I have a new idea. He didn't. Not yet. But something was forming, desperate, dangerous, and maybe the only play left. If he couldn't run far enough, he'd have to stop them at the source. Cut off the head, and the body dies. Brennan. If Brennan went down, his organization would collapse into chaos. The hired guns would scatter without leadership. The conspiracy would eat itself. 1 target. 1 kill. Lily, I need you to be braver than you've ever been. Okay. I'm going to take you somewhere safe. You, Ghost, and Shadow. Then I have to go do something very important. You're going to fight the bad men. Yes. Will you come back? He looked into those hazel eyes. Saw Catherine there somehow, the same fierce hope, the same desperate need to believe the world could be better. I'll do everything in my power to come back to you. That's the best promise I can make. Lily considered this. Then she reached up and kissed his cheek. For luck, she said. Mommy always gave me luck kisses. Marcus felt his eyes burn. Thank you, Lily. He found a hollow beneath a fallen pine deep enough to provide shelter from wind and visibility. He tucked Lily inside with Ghost left Shadow on guard and made sure she had food, water, and the stuffed rabbit. Don't come out until I come for you. No matter what you hear. No matter how long it takes. What if you don't come? Then Shadow will protect you until the helicopters arrive. Good people are coming. They'll find you. Lily's lower lip trembled, but she didn't cry. I'll be brave. I know you will. He touched Shadow's head. Guard her with your life. The dog's eyes met his with perfect understanding. Marcus turned and began the hunt. He moved fast now, unencumbered. 15 years of training took over silent movement, minimal tracks using terrain for concealment. He wasn't running anymore. He was stalking. The trucks had stopped at the destroyed cabin. Men swarmed the wreckage, shouting, searching. Brennan stood in the center, barking orders through a megaphone. Marcus circled wide, approaching from the forested hillside above. The snow was shallower here beneath the thick pines. He could move quickly and quietly. 300 yards from the cabin ruins. 200. 100. He found a position behind a deadfall, perfect sightline to Brennan. The sheriff was pacing, radio in hand. His face was red with fury. What do you mean they're gone? They couldn't have gotten far with a child. Marcus steadied his rifle. One shot. Everything he cared about in one trigger pull. His finger touched the cold metal. Breathe in. Breathe out. Sir, we found tracks heading north, fresh, maybe 2 hours old. Brennan spun toward the scout. How many? Looks like 1 adult, 2 dogs. Something being dragged could be the child. Get the teams moving. Full pursuit. I want that girl found before the feds arrive. Marcus's finger tightened. Now. Do it now. But he hesitated. 25 men surrounded Brennan. The moment Marcus fired, they would converge on his position. He might kill the sheriff, but he would never escape. And if he died here, who would protect Lily when they found her? He eased off the trigger. Not yet. Not like this. He needed to thin the herd first. Marcus melted back into the forest as the pursuit teams fanned out. They were tracking his path, good trackers, but not great. They missed the subtle signs he'd left, the false trails, the doubled-back sections. He let them spread out. Let them separate from each other. Then, he went to work. The first man never heard him. A choke from behind applied with surgical precision, unconscious in 4 seconds, hidden in the snow. The second turned just in time to see Marcus's fist before blackness took him. The third reached for his radio. Marcus was faster. 4th, 5th, 6th. He moved through them like a ghost, silent and lethal. Non-fatal takedowns. He wasn't here to create bodies, just to remove threats. By the time the teams realized something was wrong, Marcus had neutralized 9 men. Report. All units report. Static. Silence. Unit 3, Unit 5, respond. Panic crept into the radio traffic. The remaining men drew together, abandoning the search pattern for defensive clusters. Exactly what Marcus wanted. He circled back toward the cabin ruins. Brennan was there with 6 guards, suddenly looking much less confident. What's happening out there? Unknown, sir. We've lost contact with 9 units. 9, that's impossible. Sir, maybe we should call for extraction. We're not leaving without that girl. Brennan's voice cracked with desperation. She's the only loose end. Everything falls apart if she talks. Marcus smiled grimly. Loose end. That's what they called a 3-year-old orphan. He checked the sky. Still gray, still overcast. But somewhere beyond those clouds, help was coming. His burst transmitter had been broadcasting for nearly an hour. Ortega would have received it by now. Assets would be mobilizing. Just a little longer. He keyed the radio he'd stolen. Sheriff Brennan. Dead silence. "I know you can hear me." Brennan grabbed his radio. "Who is this? You know who it is. I'm the one who just eliminated half your team, and I'm coming for you next." Marcus watched through his scope as Brennan's face went pale. "What do you want?" "Justice. For Catherine. For Thomas Reed and his wife. For Lily. For every person your network has destroyed. You're one man. You can't stop us." "I've been one man against armies before. Your hired thugs don't scare me. You don't scare me." "Then why are we talking?" "Because I'm giving you one chance. Surrender now. Tell your men to stand down. Face justice through the legal system. That's more mercy than you showed my wife." Brennan laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You're insane. Even if you kill me, Frost Network continues. We have people everywhere, police courts, federal agencies. Kill me, and 3 more take my place. Then I'll kill them too. You can't fight a system. Watch me." Marcus ended the transmission. Below, Brennan was screaming orders. His remaining men formed a tight perimeter, weapons pointed outward at the surrounding forest. Let them wait. Let them sweat. Time was on Marcus's side now. He checked his watch. 12 minutes since the pursuit began. Maybe 30 more until Ortega's team arrived. 30 minutes to keep Brennan pinned, his forces scattered, and Lily hidden. 30 minutes to stay alive. A sound reached his ears. Faint, but growing. Engines again. But different this time. Not trucks. Rotors. Marcus looked up as 2 black helicopters crested the ridge, running lights blinking. Brennan's reinforcements had arrived. The helicopters descended into the clearing, disgorging men in tactical gear. Not local thugs this time, professional mercenaries, moving with discipline and coordination. Marcus counted 12, 14, 18. Too many. Way too many. His position was compromised. The new arrivals had thermal equipment. He could see the handheld scanners as they fanned out. They would find Lily within minutes. Marcus made the only choice left. He stood up from cover and walked into the open. "Brennan," every weapon swung toward him. "You want me, here I am." He dropped his rifle, raised his hands. Brennan's face split into a vicious grin. "Take him." Men rushed forward. Marcus let them. He thought about Lily hidden in the hollow, thought about Shadow guarding her, thought about the helicopters that should be coming, Ortega's team, his brothers, his family. 30 minutes. He just needed to buy 30 more minutes, whatever it took. They forced Marcus to his knees in the snow. 2 men held his arms. A third pressed a rifle barrel against the back of his skull. Brennan approached slowly, savoring the moment, his boots crunching through the frozen crust. "Navy SEAL," Brennan said, circling him like a shark. 15 years of service, 200 missions, and you surrender without a fight." Marcus kept his voice even. "Seemed like the smart play." "Smart?" Brennan laughed. "You just handed yourself to the people who killed your wife. That's not smart. That's suicide." "Maybe I wanted to look you in the eye." Brennan stopped in front of him, crouched down until they were face to face. "Here I am. Take a good look." Marcus studied him. 53 years old. Silver hair beneath his sheriff's hat. Blue eyes that might have seemed kind to someone who didn't know what they concealed. The face of a man who shook hands at church fundraisers, who kissed babies at campaign rallies, who built a criminal empire on the bones of the vulnerable. "Catherine got closer than anyone before her," Marcus said quietly. "That's why you killed her, isn't it? She was going to expose everything." Brennan's smile flickered. "Your wife was persistent. I'll give her that. Too persistent. She came to my office, sat right across from my desk asking questions about nursing home mortality rates. So polite. So professional. And you poisoned her for it. I made a problem go away. That's what I do." Brennan stood. "Where's the girl?" "What girl?" The rifle barrel pressed harder against Marcus's skull. "Don't play games. The thermal scans show 3 heat signatures heading north. 1 adult, 2 animals. We already found where you hid them." Marcus's blood froze. "Oh yes," Brennan continued. "My men are converging on that position right now. A hollow beneath a fallen pine. Very creative. Very desperate. She's 3 years old. She's a witness. Witnesses talk. Talk brings investigators. Investigators bring consequences." Brennan shrugged. "I've eliminated witnesses before. Old women. Disabled veterans. A marshal and his wife. What's one more?" Marcus lunged. The guards caught him before he moved 6 inches, slamming him back to his knees. Pain exploded through his shoulders as they wrenched his arms. "Ah, there's the SEAL," Brennan said approvingly. "I was wondering when he'd show up." "If you touch her, you'll wet you're on your knees. Your weapons are gone. Your backup isn't coming." "They're coming." The burst transmitter. Brennan pulled the device from his pocket. Marcus's device recovered from the cabin wreckage. "Clever, but we've been jamming military frequencies since we arrived. Your distress signal never left this valley." Marcus felt the words like physical blows. No signal. No rescue. No hope. Brennan watched the realization spread across his face. "That's the look I wanted. That's the look your wife had when she understood what was happening to her. When the sickness that wasn't sickness started taking hold. I'm going to kill you. No. You're going to die in this forest, and the girl is going to die beside you, and by spring thaw the animals will have scattered your bones so thoroughly no one will ever know you existed." He turned to his men. "Find the child. Bring her to me. I want Mr. Cole to watch before we finish this." 4 mercenaries broke off toward the northern ridge. Marcus calculated. They'd reach Lily's position in 15 minutes. Shadow was loyal, but he was 1 dog against 4 armed men. 15 minutes. That's all he had left. "Brennan." The sheriff paused. "The flash drive Catherine assembled. The one Thomas Reed was transporting. You didn't find it in the wreckage." Brennan turned slowly. "What? I have it. Every document, every transaction, every name in your network. It's on my person right now." A dangerous light entered Brennan's eyes. "You're lying." "Check my left jacket pocket." Brennan gestured. One of the guards reached into Marcus's jacket, pulled out the flash drive. "That's 10 years of evidence," Marcus said. "Catherine's work and Reed's work combined. Kill me and copies automatically upload to every news organization in the country. Cloud storage, dead man, switch time, delayed release." Another lie, but Brennan couldn't know that. "You're bluffing." "Am I? You murdered a federal marshal and his wife yesterday. That's already going to bring heat you can't control. Add my death and Navy SEAL on federal assignment and you'll have every agency in the country crawling up your spine. But release those files. Every corrupt judge, every dirty cop, every politician in your pocket gets exposed. Your whole network burns." Brennan's face had gone pale. "What do you want? The girl lives. You let her go, let her disappear into the system, and I'll destroy the drive myself. And if I refuse, then we all burn together." Silence stretched between them. The guards shifted nervously, sensing the change in atmosphere. Brennan's hand moved toward his radio. "Team 2, hold position. Do not approach the target until further orders." "Sir." "You heard me? Hold." He turned back to Marcus, calculating. "You'd really sacrifice yourself for a child you've known for 1 day. I've sacrificed myself for strangers my whole career. At least this one has a name." Something flickered across Brennan's face. Maybe respect. Maybe just cunning. "Tell me something," he said. "Catherine. Did she ever talk about me? Did she mention finding anything?" Marcus understood suddenly. Brennan was scared. Not of death, of exposure. The flash drive represented everything he'd spent decades hiding. "She talked about you at the end," Marcus said, slowly crafting each word. "When she still thought it was cancer. She said there was a monster in Montana wearing a badge. Said she wished she'd lived long enough to tear off his mask." Brennan's jaw tightened. She also said something else. Something that kept her going through the worst of the pain. "What?" Marcus met his eyes. "She said Marcus will find out, and when he does, God help whoever did this." The words hung in the frozen air. Brennan's face twisted. "Pretty speech, but your wife is dead, and you're about to join her." He raised his radio. "Team 2, proceed to target. Eliminate the child." "No!" Marcus threw himself forward with every ounce of strength. The guards held him, but barely. He fought like a man possessed, driven by rage and desperation, and the image of Lily huddled in that hollow, counting on him to come back. A rifle butt crashed into his temple. The world went white. Then gray, then dark. When Marcus woke, he was bound to a tree. Zip ties cut into his wrists pulled so tight his fingers had gone numb. His head throbbed where the rifle had struck. Blood dripped from his temple, cooling on his cheek. Brennan sat on a fallen log 10 feet away, the flash drive turning in his fingers. "You know what I think?" the sheriff said conversationally. "I think your dead man's switch is a bluff. I think this drive is the only copy, and you were betting I wouldn't call your hand." Marcus said nothing. "I'm going to call it anyway. Kill the girl. Destroy the drive. Let your bodies feed the wolves." Brennan stood. "Any last words? Just 2. "Go ahead." Marcus smiled through the blood. "Thunder rolling." Brennan frowned. "What is that?" The world exploded. Not an explosion, something else. Something massive crashing through the trees close enough to shake the ground. Men shouted. Weapons swung toward the sound. Shadow burst from the underbrush. The German shepherd slammed into the nearest guard with 80 pounds of fury jaws clamping around the man's weapon arm. The guard screamed, dropped his rifle, crashed backward into 2 of his comrades. A second impact from a different direction. Ghost, wounded, limping but moving with desperate speed, launched himself at a mercenary trying to aim at Shadow. "What the hell?" Marcus wrenched at his bonds. The zip ties were tight, but the cold had made them brittle. He twisted pulled felt plastic, cutting skin. Pop. His hands came free. He rolled just as bullets tore through where he'd been. Grabbed a fallen branch. Swung it into the nearest guard's knee with a crack of breaking bone. The man went down screaming. Marcus took his rifle. 3 shots. 3 men fell. Brennan ran. Marcus pursued. The sheriff was fast for his age, crashing through the snow with panicked speed. Marcus was faster. 15 years of daily training of running through deserts and mountains and jungle had built a body that didn't quit. He caught Brennan at the edge of a frozen creek, tackled him into the ice. They crashed through, plunging into water cold enough to stop hearts. Marcus didn't feel it. Rage burned too hot. He dragged Brennan up, slammed him against a rock. Water poured from both their clothes, freezing instantly on exposed skin. "Where's Lily?" Brennan gasped, struggled. "The team, I called them off." "You ordered them to kill her." They couldn't have reached her yet." Marcus's hands closed around Brennan's throat. "Tell me where she is or I'll crush your windpipe and find her myself." "Alive," Brennan choked. "She's alive. My men haven't reached her position. I swear!" Marcus's grip tightened. He wanted to kill this man. Wanted it more than he'd ever wanted anything. This was the monster who poisoned Catherine. Who murdered Thomas Reed and Sarah Reed. Who built an empire of suffering and called it business. One squeeze. That's all it would take. Catherine's voice echoed in his memory. Words from years ago before the missions wore them both thin. Promise me something. Promise me you'll always stay human. No matter what they turn you into, keep some part of yourself that knows the difference between justice and revenge. He'd promised. Marcus released his grip. Brennan collapsed, gasping. You're under arrest, Marcus said, the words tasting strange on a battlefield tongue. For the murder of Catherine Cole. For the murder of Thomas and Sarah Reed. For trafficking, conspiracy, and crimes against the people of Montana. You can't arrest me, Brennan wheezed. You're not law enforcement. No, but they are. The sound hit them both at the same time. Rotors. Multiple rotors approaching fast. Black helicopters crested the ridge, but not Brennan's helicopters. These had markings. Naval Special Warfare. Thunder rolling, Marcus repeated. That's what we call it when the cavalry arrives. Brennan's face went gray. The helicopters descended in a storm of wind and snow. Ropes dropped. Figures slid down, dark figures in combat gear, moving with the precise coordination Marcus knew better than his own heartbeat. SEAL Team 7. Cole, sound off. Marcus raised his arm. Over here, I have the primary target secured. 3 operators reached him in seconds. Commander James Ortega led them, his weathered face showing relief beneath the tactical focus. Christ, Marcus, your transmitter cut out. We thought you were gone. They were jamming. I had to improvise. Status. 1 sheriff in custody. Approximately 20 hostiles, most neutralized. 2 canines somewhere in the woods. Marcus's voice cracked. And a 3-year-old girl, Lily. She's hidden in a hollow about 300 meters north. I need her found, now. Ortega was already radioing. Alpha Team, push north. Civilian rescue priority. 3-year-old female accompanied by 2 German shepherds. Non-combatant. Treat with extreme care. Copy that, Commander. The rest of you secure this area. I want every hostile in cuffs or in bags. Nobody leaves this valley without our say-so. The SEALs spread out with lethal efficiency. Marcus heard gunfire in the distance, short bursts, precise, professional. Brennan's remaining men weren't soldiers. They were thugs with rifles. Against SEAL Team 7, they never had a chance. Ortega pulled out an emergency blanket, wrapped it around Marcus's shoulders. You're hypothermic. Get to the medic. After I know Lily's safe. Marcus, after. Ortega studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Understood. The radio crackled. Commander Alpha Team, we found her. She's alive. Repeat, the child is alive and unharmed. Marcus's knees buckled. Ortega caught him. Easy, easy, brother. She's okay. Shadow, Ghost. Both dogs accounted for. One's wounded but mobile. Your shepherd is... A pause. He's currently refusing to let us approach the girl. Very protective. Marcus laughed, a broken, exhausted sound. Tell them to say my name. Tell them Marcus sent them. A minute passed. It worked. We have the child. En route to extraction point now. Marcus closed his eyes. For the first time in days, something in his chest unknotted. The flash drive, he told Ortega. Brennan has it. It's everything: Catherine's investigation, the marshal's files, the whole conspiracy. We'll recover it. Ortega's voice hardened. Catherine Cole, your wife, they murdered her, made it look like cancer. God, Marcus, I'm sorry. Don't be sorry, just make sure these bastards pay. They will. Every last one. The next hours blurred together. Marcus was loaded into a helicopter, an IV in his arm, thermal wraps around his core. He watched through the window as Brennan was hauled out in cuffs, surrounded by 4 operators who looked like they wanted any excuse to put him down. The other helicopters brought out the wounded, both friendly and hostile. The dead were bagged in black. The forest that had been a war zone became a crime scene, but Marcus only had eyes for one thing. The second helicopter, the one carrying a small bundled shape and 2 German shepherds. When they landed at the forward operating base, a National Guard facility commandeered for the operation, Marcus shrugged off the medics and stumbled across the tarmac. Lily saw him first. "Marcus!" She broke free from the female officer holding her and ran, legs pumping, arms outstretched. He caught her, lifted her, crushed her against his chest as tears he didn't know he was holding finally broke free. "You came back," she sobbed into his neck. "You promised and you came back." "I told you I would." The bad men came. Shadow growled and growled. Ghost tried to stand up. But then other men came with helicopters and they said your name and Shadow let them help us. Those were my friends. Good men. They said you're a hero. Marcus looked at her, this tiny, brave, impossible girl who had survived more in 3 days than most people faced in a lifetime. "No, sweetheart. You're the hero. You and Ghost. I just followed the dogs." Shadow pressed against his leg tail, wagging furiously. Ghost was on a stretcher nearby, a medic examining his wound, but his eyes never left Lily. Family, Marcus thought. Against all odds, against all logic, they had become family. The next days brought a flood of consequences. The flash drive evidence triggered federal warrants across 3 states. Sheriff Dale Brennan was charged with 17 counts of murder, including Catherine Cole. Dr. Harold Sims, the coroner who'd falsified her death certificate, was arrested at his home. 43 Frost Network affiliates were taken into custody within 72 hours. The nursing homes were raided. 23 elderly victims were rescued from fraudulent care facilities, their assets frozen, their identities restored. Social workers across Montana's Child Protective Services faced investigation, and 8 were immediately terminated and charged. Most importantly, 11 children were recovered from trafficking placements. Kids like Lily, stolen and sold, finally going home. Margaret Hayes, the 75-year-old widow who'd been next on Frost Network's list, answered her door to find FBI agents instead of killers. She cried when they told her what had almost happened. She cried harder when they told her who'd saved her. The news coverage was relentless. A Navy SEAL, a blizzard, 2 dogs, a 3-year-old girl. It was the kind of story that captured the nation's heart. Marcus refused every interview. What mattered couldn't be captured by cameras. What mattered was in a hospital room in Missoula, where a little girl with hazel eyes was finally sleeping without nightmares, and a gray shepherd with a bandaged leg lay at the foot of her bed, and a black and tan shepherd lay in front of the door guarding them both. Ortega visited on the 3rd day. "How you holding up?" Marcus sat beside Lily's bed, Shadow's head on his knee. "I've been better. I've been worse." "The brass wants to give you a medal, again. Tell them to give it to Ghost. He did more than I did." "Funny you should mention that." Ortega handed him a folder. "National Canine Valor Medal. They're awarding it next month, full ceremony. The president wants to attend." Marcus opened the folder. Ghost's photo stared up at him, the same dog who'd nearly frozen to death, protecting a child he barely knew. "He deserves it. So do you. I just did my job." Ortega sat on the edge of the bed. "Marcus, I've known you 15 years. I've never seen you fight like that. You went 1 against 20 for a kid you'd just met. That's not duty. That's something else." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Catherine couldn't have children," he finally said. "We tried. Doctor's treatment's everything. It never happened. I think I think part of why she threw herself into the investigation was because she couldn't save her own family, so she tried to save other people's families. She sounds like an incredible woman. She was, and now I have a chance to finish what she started. What do you mean? Marcus looked at Lily, still sleeping peacefully. She's got nobody. No parents, no relatives. She's a ward of the state now. Marcus, I know it's crazy. I know I'm a broken-down operator with more demons than sense. But she trusts me. The dogs trust me. And maybe— He stopped, swallowing hard. Maybe Catherine sent her to me. Maybe this was supposed to happen all along. Ortega studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled. You're going to adopt her. If they'll let me. Brother, after what you did, they'll let you adopt the whole damn foster system. He gripped Marcus's shoulder. Catherine would be proud. Marcus felt tears threaten again. Yeah, I think she would. Lily stirred. Her eyes opened, found Marcus, and she smiled. You're still here. I'm still here. Promise you'll always be here. Marcus took her small hand in his. I promise. The courtroom fell silent when Marcus Cole took the stand. 3 months had passed since the blizzard. 3 months of healing testimony preparation and learning what it meant to be a father instead of a soldier. Now he faced the man who destroyed his world. Dale Brennan sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed to the rail. The confident sheriff was gone. In his place was something smaller, something diminished by the weight of evidence stacked against him. Mr. Cole, the federal prosecutor said, please describe for the jury your relationship with Catherine Cole. Marcus gripped the railing. She was my wife. We were married for 11 years. She was the best person I ever knew. And when did you learn the true cause of her death? The night of the blizzard, January 14th of this year. Tell the court what you discovered. Marcus looked at Brennan. The sheriff wouldn't meet his eyes. My wife was investigating Frost Network for 18 months before her death. She uncovered evidence linking Sheriff Brennan to a criminal conspiracy involving elder fraud, child trafficking, and multiple homicides. When she got too close to the truth, Brennan ordered her elimination. How was this elimination carried out? Slow poisoning, made to look like cancer. The county medical examiner, Harold Sims, falsified her death certificate. I was told my wife died of natural causes. Whispers rippled through the gallery. The judge called for order. I held her hand for 6 months while she faded. Marcus continued, his voice steady despite the pain. I watched her lose weight, lose strength, lose hope. I blamed God. I blamed the doctors. I blamed myself for not being there enough. He paused, breathing through the grief that never fully left. I never blamed the man who actually killed her, because I didn't know he existed. Dale. Brennan sat in his office, shook hands with politicians, smiled for cameras, and let my wife rot from the inside out. And when she finally died, he celebrated. He threw a party. I found the receipts in the evidence files. Brennan's lawyer objected. Overruled. She was brave until the end, Marcus said. Even when she thought it was cancer, she kept fighting, kept gathering evidence, kept believing someone would finish what she started. And did someone finish it? Marcus looked past Brennan to the gallery where Lily sat on Commander Ortega's lap, clutching Mr. Buttons. Shadow and Ghost lay at their feet, therapy vests marking them as approved courtroom companions. A 3-year-old girl and 2 German shepherds found me in a blizzard. They led me to the truth my wife died trying to expose. So yes, someone finished it. Just not who anyone expected. The prosecutor nodded. No further questions. Brennan's lawyer approached. Young, expensive, clearly regretting his client choice. Mr. Cole, you're a trained killer, aren't you? I'm a Navy SEAL. I'm trained to defend my country. You've killed people, many people. In combat, under orders, protecting American lives. And when you captured Sheriff Brennan, you considered killing him, didn't you? Marcus met the lawyer's eyes. Yes. A murmur from the jury. But you didn't. No. Why not? Marcus thought about the frozen creek, about his hands around Brennan's throat, about Catherine's voice in his memory. Because my wife asked me to stay human, and revenge isn't human. Justice is human. That's why we have courts. That's why I'm here instead of visiting his grave. The lawyer had nothing to follow. No further questions. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Marcus testified for 2 days. Commander Ortega testified about the rescue operation. FBI agents presented the flash drive evidence. Former Frost Network employees cut deals and named names. But the moment everyone remembered came on day 18. Margaret Hayes, 75 years old, took the stand with a walker and a spine of steel. Mrs. Hayes, the prosecutor said, you were next on Frost Network's target list. Can you describe what would have happened if their operation hadn't been stopped? Margaret looked directly at Brennan. They would have put me in one of their facilities. Sunny Meadows, I think, in Helena. They would have drugged me until I couldn't think straight. Then they would have drained my bank account, sold my home, and let me die when my money ran out. How do you know this? Because that's what happened to my sister, Ruth. She went into Sunny Meadows 2 years ago. Happy, healthy, sharp as a tack. Within 6 months, she couldn't remember my name. Within a year, she was dead. The estate she'd saved for 50 years went to administrative costs. Margaret's voice cracked, but she didn't cry. I didn't know what happened until a Navy SEAL risked his life to stop these monsters, until a little girl survived a car crash that killed her foster parents, until 2 brave dogs carried her through a blizzard to find help. She turned to face the jury. I'm alive because of them. My sister isn't. I want you to remember that when you decide this man's fate. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Brennan received 17 consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. When the verdict was read, he finally looked at Marcus. His eyes held something beyond defeat recognition, maybe that he'd lost to a better man. Marcus didn't gloat, didn't smile. He simply nodded once, then turned to gather Lily from Ortega's arms. Is the bad man going away? Lily whispered. Forever, Marcus said. He's never hurting anyone again. Good. She wrapped her arms around his neck. Can we get ice cream? Marcus laughed, a real laugh, the first one that felt natural since Catherine died. Yeah, sweetheart. We can get ice cream. The adoption hearing was scheduled for May. Marcus spent every day preparing. He took parenting classes. He child-proofed the small house he'd bought in Wyoming, far from the mountains where everything had happened. He learned to cook meals that didn't come from MRE pouches. He practiced bedtime stories until Lily corrected his inflections. No, Marcus. The wolf says it's scary. You sound like you're ordering pizza. I don't know how to sound scary. Yes, you do. You sounded scary when the bad men came. He knelt beside her bed. I don't ever want to sound like that around you. Why? Because you deserve someone who sounds like safety, not like fighting. Lily considered this with the gravity only a 3-year-old could muster. You sound like safety now. You sound like Daddy. The word hit him like a bullet. Lily, I'm not your daddy. Not yet, but you will be, when the judge lady says so. She picked up Mr. Buttons and tucked him under her chin. I asked Ghost. He said it's okay. You asked Ghost. He knows everything. He told me you were good the first night. That's why he let you help me. Marcus looked at the gray shepherd lying at the foot of the bed. Ghost's leg had healed with a slight limp, but his eyes were as bright and wise as ever. What else did Ghost tell you? He said your heart was cold before, like the snow, but I made it warm again. Marcus's throat tightened. Yeah, you did. Will you read me the bunny story? Which one? The one where the bunny gets lost, but his family finds him? I think I know that one. He read, until she fell asleep, then sat watching her breathe for longer than he should have. Shadow joined him, pressing close, offering the wordless comfort only dogs could provide. What am I doing, boy? Marcus whispered. I don't know how to be a father. I don't know how to be anything except a soldier. Shadow licked his hand. That's not an answer. But maybe it was. Maybe the answer was simpler than he wanted to believe. Show up. Stay present. Love without condition. The things Shadow had done for him since the day they met. The adoption hearing took place on a Thursday morning in Cheyenne. Marcus wore his dress uniform not to impress the judge, but because Lily asked him to. You look like a superhero in that, she'd said. I want everyone to see my superhero. The courtroom was smaller than the one where Brennan was convicted, more intimate. Judge Patricia Hernandez presided, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and eyes that had seen decades of family tragedies and triumphs. Mr. Cole, she said, reviewing his file, you've served your country with distinction. Combat medals, commendations, 15 years of exemplary service. You're also a widower with no children and no previous experience as a primary caregiver. Yes, Your Honor. You've completed the required parenting courses. Your home study is approved. Your references are remarkable. She flipped through pages. Senators, generals, the FBI director personally vouched for you. They're generous with their praise, ma'am. They describe you as the most dedicated, reliable, and morally grounded man they've ever known. Judge Hernandez looked up. Is that accurate? Marcus hesitated. I try to be those things. I don't always succeed. Honesty. That's good. She turned to Lily, who sat at a smaller table with a court advocate. Miss Lily, I have some questions for you, too. Is that okay? Lily nodded seriously. Do you understand what's happening today? Marcus is going to be my daddy for real. That's right. And how do you feel about that? Happy. No hesitation. No doubt. Marcus saves people. He saved me. Now he's going to save me forever. Something shifted in the judge's expression. And Mr. Buttons, how does he feel? Lily consulted the stuffed rabbit gravely. Mr. Buttons says Marcus gives good hugs and makes pancakes in funny shapes. Laughter rippled through the courtroom. That's a strong endorsement. Judge Hernandez set down her papers. Mr. Cole, I've presided over hundreds of adoption cases. Most involve couples, established families, people who've spent years preparing for parenthood. Marcus's heart sank. You're none of those things. You're a single man with a dangerous profession and a history of trauma. By every conventional standard, I should deny this petition. Your Honor, I'm not finished. She held up her hand. By every conventional standard, you'd be a terrible candidate. But nothing about this case is conventional. This child was rescued from a trafficking network. She survived a murder attempt, a car crash, and a blizzard. She watched her foster parents die and spent hours in the cold with only a dog to protect her. She looked at Marcus with something like wonder. And the man who found her, a stranger with no obligation, no connection, no reason, risked his life repeatedly to save her. Killed no one when he could have killed many. Testified honestly when lies would have been easier. Pursued justice instead of vengeance. Marcus couldn't speak. That man then spent 3 months learning to be a father. Not because anyone required it, but because he wanted to be worthy of this child's trust. Judge Hernandez rose. In my 40 years on the bench, I've never seen a clearer case of fate bringing two people together. This child needs a protector, This man needs someone to protect. The match is not just suitable, it's miraculous. She picked up her gavel. I hereby grant the petition for adoption. Marcus Cole is now the legal father of Lily Cole. May God bless this family. The gavel fell. Lily launched herself across the courtroom. Marcus caught her, lifted her, held her so tight he feared he'd break something. Daddy, she said into his chest. I can call you Daddy now. Yes, sweetheart. His voice was destroyed, barely audible. You can call me Daddy forever. The courtroom applauded. Commander Ortega wiped his eyes and pretended he wasn't crying. Shadow and Ghost, waiting in the hall, barked joyfully at the noise. Judge Hernandez smiled. Take care of her, Mr. Cole. With my life, Your Honor. Every day for the rest of my life. Summer came to Wyoming like a blessing. Marcus planted a garden because Lily wanted flowers. He built a tree house because she wanted a castle. He learned to braid hair because she refused to let anyone else try. The nightmares faded slowly. Lily still woke crying sometimes, calling for parents she barely remembered. Marcus held her through each one, whispering that she was safe, that he was there, that nothing would hurt her again. His own nightmares changed. The old ones combat death. Catherine's final breath gave way to something different. Dreams where he failed. Dreams where he arrived too late. Dreams where Lily vanished into a blizzard he couldn't navigate. He woke from those in cold sweats, checked her room 3 times, and didn't sleep again until dawn. But the good days outnumbered the bad. That was enough. Margaret Hayes visited in July. She drove 12 hours from Montana, arrived with a car full of gifts, and immediately started spoiling Lily with the focused intensity of a grandmother who'd lost too many years. I never had grandchildren, she told Marcus while Lily played with Ghost in the yard. My husband and I tried. Never happened. Ruth's kids died young. I thought I'd go to my grave without anyone to pass things on to. You're not going anywhere, Marcus said. Doctor says you'll live to 100. Doctor said Ruth was fine too. Margaret's voice was bitter, then softened. But they caught it this time. Thanks to you. Thanks to that little girl. She watched Lily attempt to put a flower crown on Ghost's head. The shepherd tolerated it with patient dignity. You know, when my sister died, I wanted to die too. Didn't see the point of going on. Then I got a call from the FBI saying someone had saved my life without even knowing who I was. She turned to Marcus. You gave me a reason to keep living, to see justice done, to meet this precious child and know that good still exists in the world. Marcus didn't know how to respond. I updated my will, Margaret continued. Everything I have goes to Lily. For college, for her future, for whatever she needs. Margaret, that's not necessary. It's already done. My sister would have wanted it. She spent her whole life helping children. Now her money will help one more. Lily ran up Flower Crown abandoned Ghost, trotting behind her. Grandma Margaret, will you stay for dinner? Daddy's making spaghetti, but he always burns the garlic. Margaret laughed. I'd love to stay, and I'll watch the garlic. Marcus gave her a grateful nod. Family, he thought. It kept growing in ways he never expected. The ceremony happened on a crisp September morning. Ghost stood on a platform at the Naval Special Warfare Command Center, a ribbon around his neck, cameras flashing from every angle. The National Canine Valor Medal gleamed against his gray fur. For extraordinary courage and life-saving action in the face of overwhelming odds, the Admiral read, Ghost is hereby recognized as a hero of the highest order. His actions directly saved the life of a child and contributed to the dismantling of a major criminal network. This medal honors his bravery, his loyalty, and his indomitable spirit. Applause erupted. Ghost, trained to remain calm under any circumstances, wagged his tail once. The Admiral crouched beside him. "Good boy. You're a good boy." From the front row, Lily shouted, "That's my dog!" Laughter rippled through the crowd. Marcus held her on his hip, Shadow sitting attentively at his feet. The press wanted photos. The seal, the child, the dogs, the whole impossible story. He gave them 5 minutes. "Mr. Cole, how does it feel to have a daughter? Like I finally understand what I was fighting for all those years. Will you return to active duty? I'm transitioning to training roles. Turns out I'm pretty good at teaching new SEALs how to survive. And Ghost, will he remain with your family?" Marcus looked at the gray shepherd, who was now being embraced by Lily, his tail sweeping back and forth. "Ghost carried my daughter through a blizzard when everyone else wanted her dead. He's family. He's not going anywhere." The press loved it. The story ran on every network, every website, every platform. A seal, a storm, 2 dogs, 1 child. America couldn't get enough. But for Marcus, the cameras meant nothing. What mattered was the drive home, with Lily asleep in the back seat, both dogs guarding her, and the setting sun painting the mountains gold. What mattered was the house they'd built together, filled with drawings and toys, and the mess of a life being lived. What mattered was standing on his porch after Lily went to bed, looking up at the stars, and finally visiting Catherine. He hadn't been to her grave since the funeral. He went in October, when the leaves turned amber, and the air smelled like endings and beginnings. Shadow came with him. Lily stayed with Margaret. The headstone was simple. Catherine Marie Cole. Beloved wife, relentless truth seeker. Marcus knelt in the grass. "Hey, Katie." Silence. Wind in the trees. "I found out what happened. I know you didn't die of cancer. I know they killed you. And I made sure they paid for it." He placed a photograph against the stone. Lily laughing, both dogs flanking her. "I also found something else. Someone else. Her name is Lily. She's 4 now. She's brave and funny and too smart for her own good. She reminds me of you." His voice cracked. "I adopted her, Katie. I'm a dad. Can you believe it? The guy who couldn't keep a houseplant alive is raising a kid." Shadow pressed against his leg. "She asked about you. I told her you were an angel. She said she already knew because the angels helped her find me in the snow." He wiped his eyes. "I don't know if that's true. I don't know if you sent them, if God sent them, if it was just dumb luck that saved all our lives. But I know this, I'm not broken anymore. Or maybe I am, but the broken pieces finally fit together." He touched the cold stone. "I'm going to raise her right, Katie. I'm going to teach her everything you would have taught her. How to be brave, how to fight for truth, how to love without reservation." He stood slowly. "I'll bring her here someday. When she's ready. She'll put flowers on your grave and tell you all about her dogs and her friends and the life we're building." One final pause. "I love you, Catherine. I always will. But I'm not alone anymore. And I think that's what you would have wanted." He walked back to the car, Shadow at his side. And for the first time in 3 years, the weight in his chest felt like something he could carry. Christmas Eve. Lily stood at the window, breath fogging the glass, watching snow fall. "Daddy, do you think Santa knows about Ghost and Shadow? Do you think he brings presents for dogs?" Marcus looked up from the fire he was building. "I think Santa knows about all good dogs, and Ghost and Shadow are definitely good dogs. The best dogs." She pressed her face closer to the glass. The snow looks like the blizzard. When you found me." Marcus set down the poker and crossed to her. He knelt so they were eye to eye. "Does that scare you? A little?" She hesitated. "But not like before. Now when I see snow, I think about how you followed Shadow into the storm. How you didn't give up. I could never give up on you." "Why not?" Marcus thought about the question. Thought about all the ways he could answer duty instinct training. But those weren't the truth. "Because I'd been waiting for you," he said finally. "I didn't know it. But something inside me was waiting for a little girl who needed a home. And when you came, everything made sense." Lily hugged him fiercely. "I was waiting for you too. Ghost told me someone was coming. He told me to be brave until you got there." "Ghost is pretty smart." "The smartest." She pulled back, suddenly urgent. "Daddy, do you think it's okay that I don't remember Mommy and Daddy Thomas anymore? The first ones I try to remember, but their faces are fuzzy." Marcus's heart ached. "It's okay, sweetheart. You were very young, and they loved you even if you can't picture their faces. That love is still inside you. It always will be. Do they know I'm happy? I'm sure they do. Do they know you take good care of me? I think they're watching right now saying that guy is doing pretty good, but he still burns the garlic." Lily giggled. The sound filled the room, chased away the shadows. "Come on," Marcus said. "Help me put out cookies for Santa. And carrots for the reindeer. And carrots for the reindeer." They set out the plate together. Sugar cookies that Lily had decorated with more frosting than any cookie required, and carrots cut into uneven chunks. Shadow and Ghost watched from their beds by the fire, old warriors content with peace. Later, after Lily fell asleep, clutching Mr. Buttons, Marcus sat on the porch and watched the snow. He thought about the night everything changed. The bark in the storm, the frozen child on his doorstep, the wounded dog who refused to let go. He thought about Catherine, about the justice she'd finally received. He thought about Margaret Hayes and the other survivors rebuilding lives that almost ended. He thought about the SEALs who came when he called brothers who never left a man behind. And he thought about Lily. Brave, impossible, miraculous Lily. Some storms come to destroy, but some storms come to rebuild. Some storms tear away everything false until only truth remains. And some storms bring you exactly where you need to be. Shadow padded out onto the porch and lay at his feet. Ghost followed, moving slower with his limp, but following nonetheless. Marcus rested his hands on their heads. "Thank you," he whispered, "both of you, for everything." Two tails wagged in the darkness. Inside, Lily slept warm and safe, dreaming of Christmas morning. Outside, the snow fell softly, covering old wounds, promising new beginnings. And Marcus Cole, soldier, survivor, father, finally understood what he'd been fighting for all along. Not duty, not country, not vengeance. Family. This was family. And he would protect it until his last breath. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to hear that miracles still happen. Leave a comment about where you're watching from. Subscribe so you never miss another tale of courage, loyalty, and love. And remember, sometimes the darkest storms lead us to the brightest lights. God bless you. God bless your family. And may you always find your way home.